What's happening, everybody? On today's show, we will continue our SEC team previews ahead of the SEC football season. Today, we're going to focus on the Kentucky Wildcats as we talk with Nick Roush from KSR. Also, we'll go around the conference as we touch on 24/7 Sports ranking all their college quarterbacks. Brian Kelly talks on his quarterback competition at LSU. Josh Heupel brags on Hendon Hooker, and Vanderbilt loses a defensive player for the season already. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at LockedOnSEC.com. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Intercepted. Makes the handoff. Throws. What a catch.
Around the conference.
And we start with 24/7 Sports as they rank their top 131 starting quarterbacks. And the top 5 featured 3 SEC quarterbacks. Of course, Bryce Young, the Heisman Trophy winner, coming in at number 1 in their rankings. Rounding out the top 5, they've got KJ Jefferson from from Arkansas coming in at number 4, and Tennessee's Hendon Hooker coming in at number 5. So Bryce Young, number 1, Arkansas's KJ Jefferson, number 4, and Tennessee's Hendon Hooker at number 5. Now, the SEC didn't have any other quarterbacks in the top 10, but rounding it out, in the top 20, you did have Will Rogers at Mississippi State coming in at number 11. You had Stetson Bennett at Georgia coming in at number 13. You had Anthony Richardson at Florida coming in at number 14. Will Levis at Kentucky coming in at number 18. And Spencer Rattler coming in at number 20. So, as you can see, a lot of good talent in the SEC. If we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in the top 20 of 24/7 Sports rankings. But, again, some people unhappy. You know, if you wanted to make an argument for Stetson Bennett, the guy who just won the national championship and had a fantastic season for Georgia, and he's back coming at number 13. I get it. Will Rogers, one of the leaders in passing yards last year in the country, coming at number 11. So, look, tomato. Everybody has their own preferences, but that's where they rank them. But again, Bryce Young, number 1, KJ Jefferson, number 4, Hendon Hooker at number 5. Over at LSU, Brian Kelly and the Tigers, they had a full scrimmage on Wednesday and still looking to name a quarterback. Miles Brennan, of course, left the program, left football this week. Junior Arizona State transfer Jaden Daniels is battling it out with redshirt freshman Garrett Nussmeier. Brian Kelly gave his thoughts after practice on Wednesday and said, look, in particular, I thought the ball came out of Jaden Daniels' hand really well today, especially off of RPOs. It was accurate. I thought Nussmeier made some really good reads off of zone read action, which has been one of the things we've been working on. So in particular, those two things stuck out for each of them. So we will see who ends up winning this job. Some people think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. He has been a starter for a handful of years at Arizona State, has a lot of experience, has running ability. It would make a lot of sense. But Garrett Nussmeier's a little bit of a gunslinger. He's a guy not afraid to throw it downfield, take big shots. And a lot of LSU folks like that in him. So we will see as that quarterback battle continues on in Baton Rouge. Over in Nashville, Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee confirming Wednesday redshirt freshman edge defender Miles Capers is going to miss the entire season. He suffered a knee injury in practice on Tuesday. He was widely considered to have locked up a starting defensive end spot. And Clark Lee said, look, when our teammates hurt, and we certainly hurt for Miles Capers right now. He has the full support of our program as he begins his journey back. Miles is part of the heartbeat of our program, and he will strengthen this team this fall through his presence and fighting spirit. Capers played just 4 games last year, but still considered to be the team's top pass rusher heading into his second year. He will likely be replaced by one of Michael Owusu or true freshman Darren Agu, who we'll talk more on next week as we start getting you ready for Vanderbilt's season opener against Hawaii. a week from Saturday. We got football a week from Saturday. How about that? Granted, Vanderbilt, first team from the SEC to get us going, but we'll get excited for that. Over in Knoxville, Josh Heupel seen a dramatic shift in Hendon Hooker from last season and excited to see what he can do this year. Said it all begins with communication. And the Tennessee coach was on Greg McElroy's podcast, Always College Football. He talked about Hendon saying, look, first, it just starts with his complete command of our football team and ownership and leadership, true belief in his ability to lead and communicate, and his energy inside the building is so different than it was this time a year ago. Certainly when he first got here. He's continued to grow in his confidence because of the work he's put in offensively, just dramatically different, even from where we ended last season. He's got great command of what we're doing, gets out of bad plays, gets us into really solid plays, and has the ability to extend and make plays from protections to run schemes to do what we're doing down the field. Each chance you have to make that jump as a quarterback with his offseason habits, he has made a huge jump. Really interesting. Look, Hendon Hooker had a fantastic season. 3,500 yards total offense, ranked 4th in the SEC, 4th in Tennessee single-season history. Josh Heupel says he's expecting more of that this season. He said fundamentally inside the pocket, ability to find a soft spot in the pocket and be able to deliver the football down the field. When we get to live game days, his ability to get out of the pocket, make plays with his feet is a big part of our success too. It's a match made in heaven. Hendon Hooker was outstanding down the stretch last year for Tennessee, and if he's taken as big of a leap this offseason as Josh Heupel says he is, look out, Tennessee. Maybe that dark horse. Maybe we won't even say dark horse in the East. Maybe they might just be a team contending for the East. Step aside, Georgia. Here come the Vols. Meanwhile, over at Arkansas, a lot of fans excited in Fayetteville, and one big reason is KJ Jefferson. Some people saying he could be a dark horse for the Heisman. Offensive line is set to be solid. 4 starting linemen back from last year's squad. But according to ESPN's preseason power rankings, the Razorbacks should not expect the success they had last season just because KJ Jefferson's back. Writer Alex Scarborough detailed Arkansas's biggest question mark heading into year 3. How do you replace Treylon Burks? Of course, we've seen Treylon Burks catching passes for the Tennessee Titans in their preseason going on right now. But I get it. It's a big concern. Replacing his production, going to be very difficult. They got Matt Landers coming in as a transfer, Jaden Hazelwood from Oklahoma, combined to snag 11 touchdowns at Toledo and Oklahoma, respectively. Other help at wideout could come from Warren Thompson, the senior, Ketron Jackson, the sophomore. It's a big question mark, but I'm even intrigued to see how they're going to use Malik Hornsby. Will he be a pass catcher, a guy in the backfield? How will he be utilized with KJ in there? Will we see some trickeration throughout the year from Coach Bryles' playbook? Going to be fun to watch both KJ Jefferson's maturity and who steps up. We could say there's not a guy there, but somebody's got to step up for Arkansas, right? Be fun to watch that. Meanwhile, over at Alabama, they are hoping to have alcohol sales inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. And a 6-1 vote approved this week to allow the sale of alcohol inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. The application for an alcohol license was made by Levy Premium Food Service, the concession company servicing Alabama football games. The license must now be approved by the state of Alabama's Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. That's according to AL.com. Beer and wine will be sold in the concourses next to most sections of the stadium, except the student section, and alcohol will also be sold to fans in concourse lines, but not in the seating bowl. One member of the council voted against the measure, calling it a very hard decision. There was also one member of the public who spoke to the council against the measure, citing in part concerns about older students buying alcohol for underage students. Oh, my goodness. The SEC, of course, loosened their restrictions a couple years ago on selling alcohol at athletic events, and those schools who do it prosper. 9 SEC schools adopted alcohol sales. Alabama was among a small group, including Georgia and Auburn, that did not sell alcohol in general seating areas last season. But a lot of money to be made. Look, Texas, the first year they did it, they made $1 million in beer sales. And look, you want more revenue? Sell beer at your games. People are finding a way to bring the alcohol in either way. Ever go to the bathroom at a football game in the SEC? There are flasks everywhere. People are getting it in. If you sell it in the stadium, you could make a profit off of it rather than having them smuggle their own alcohol in. All right, thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Nick Roush from KSR to preview the Kentucky Wildcats football season. Look, we were just talking about alcohol sales coming to football, and you have to be responsible about it. If you're hanging out with some friends, putting back a few drinks, a few can become a few too many. As the evening comes to an end, people start to head out. You think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live by. You can make it home. Okay, it's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up. You lose your license. You lose your job. You total your car. You kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still does not stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again this football season. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. There's Uber, there's Lyft, there's tons of other options for you to take. Drive sober or get pulled over. Roll along here, SEC Media Days, and always fun to catch up with different guests. And right now, sitting down with a guy from Kentucky Sports Radio, KSR for short. He is Nick Roush, covering the Kentucky Wildcats. What's going on, man?
Pleasure to be here, Chris. Excited. It's I love this time of year. We get to actually talk football instead of, nil or transfer portal or any of that other offseason gobbledygook.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, at KSR, they're all looking at, who's the next big basketball recruit we can get. But football is improved. Like, the interest has getting higher and higher the last few years.
I hopped on the coattails at the right time. My second season doing this was Stoops' first.
Okay.
So it's been a steady climb. It's been an unusual climb. He's won in ways that Kentucky football fans never expected. And that's not with some gimmick. It's we're just going to beat you up in the trenches, run the football, play good defense.
Right.
And now he's 2 wins away from becoming the winningest head coach in Kentucky football history and surpassing Bear Bryant.
That's crazy. I mean, I remember, it wasn't too long ago where it was like everyone would get all excited for the season opener or the home opener.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was by Big Blue Madness. It was kind of, all right, on to basketball season. Football's done.
Yeah.
Now it's like you get this crossover where both are popular and everybody's going to K. Roger Field. Is that what you call it?
The Krog.
Get over there to the Kroger Field and then of course over to Rupp. And it's crazy how the passionate basketball fan base has really come back over to football.
Well, and I think for a lot of folks, it awakened some of them. But there's also been, you were getting 65,000 people there regularly throughout the 90s, where you just have a state that does like both sports. If you go out to a Friday night football game, you'll see a lot of football fans out there watching the high school sports in a state that's producing a lot more high school talent. That's helped.
Yeah.
Mark Stoops, where, he didn't get Jedrick Wills, but Kentucky, the state of Kentucky, produced a 3-year starting offensive tackle at Alabama. The talent in the state has improved markedly. Landon Young was a guy from right down the road who got drafted by the New Orleans Saints a couple of years ago. They got a guy they really like by the name of Jagger Burton, who he'd start for about 80% of the teams in college football this year. He's an offensive guard in that rotation this year. And there's another kid at Clemson right now from right down the street going to be starting on their offensive line. So the quality of player in the state of Kentucky has certainly helped the Cats.
When you write a headline for the piece on that kid, is it going to be moves like Jagger?
Oh,
there you go.
Those puns.
That was too easy.
That was free. That was a free one too. I appreciate that, Chris.
What? Will Levis. I mean, I know look, you guys went through some rough years of quarterback play, and there was nothing against those kids. Like they played their butts off. They tried their damnedest. I mean, but it got so bad we had to throw Lynn Bowden out there to play quarterback.
Yeah.
Will Levis coming in, expectations were he was going to solidify that position. What was the reaction or what you saw to Will Levis last year?
The thing about Will Levis is that initially there was a little bit of hesitancy, like, is he actually this good? And his first pass is a tip ball interception, and you're like, oh, okay. Of course, first pass, it is picked off. And he had a lot of those interceptions. He had some growing pains, but he worked through them. And a lot of it, he needed that longer leash. And Liam Cohen was happy to give it to him. He always liked to say that he was Will's caddy. He just wanted to give him the right sticks, show him give him the rangefinder, and help him be at his best. And you saw him steadily improve throughout the year. It wasn't always the case with his deep ball. I think that's the consistency in his deep ball is one thing he has to show this year. He can throw it far, but it's that accuracy from long range, and as well as his consistency. He started to get that in that LSU game. He played lights out in that LSU game. And the reason why a lot of these NFL draft scouts started noticing him is they were watching tape on Georgia.
Yeah.
And they say, wait, this Kentucky guy, he's making some throws here. And they realize, okay, he has the tools. He just has to do it on a much more consistent basis. He has to be a better decision maker. You would have liked that to happen under a second-year coordinator with Liam Cohen. Instead, it's going to be another former quarterback coach, Rich Scangarello.
Right.
That seems like a pretty seamless transition, but, we got to wait to see what happens once they roll the ball out.
And you never know. I mean, Liam Cohen brings over some NFL wrinkles, and they worked last year. But I talked to Will at the Manning Passing Academy, and, I asked him what he thought about Rich Scangarello, and he said he loves him. He said he likes it. A lot of similarities, a few new things in this offense. And
right.
Look, we know if it's a Stoops-led team, they're going to be dominant in the trenches. They're going to have a hog molly offensive line. They're going to tote the rock. Chris Rodriguez is a beast back there. But yeah, I mean, if you can get some bootleg play action passes and all that off of that, it's just going to make Will Levis that much better.
In the thing of that made him endearing to Kentucky fans is Levis. They didn't want to do it all the time, but there were some games where it's just like, all right, they're going to let you run the ball.
Yeah,
just go run it. He lowered his shoulder and knocked Blaze Aldridge on his back on third down. He had 4 rushing touchdowns against Louisville and was just throwing his L's down all over the place. And he's willing to do whatever you ask of him. The biggest, I mentioned earlier that they've been a trench team. Right now, Kentucky, you would say, you know what, Stoops has done a good job, but they probably hit a plateau, right? They're probably a 9-win team. This is probably as good as it's going to get. The way that you get from 9 wins, second or third best team in the East, to winning the East is having a quarterback like Will Levis. Right. They haven't had that yet. That's why expectations are so high in the Bluegrass this year.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to see how they respond. Talk a little bit about the defense. You lose some pieces, Yusuf Corker, some big pieces out, but you get back some big pieces.
Yes.
Like is Damian Square,
DeAndre Square, Jacquez
Jones. So I mean, you get back some pieces. How good can this defense be?
The linebackers are, as rock solid as you can get too deep. I mean, they planned on having their 2 second-string guys, Trevin Wallace, former. He's the guy who broke Lindsey Scott's high school track records in the state of Georgia. Top 100 athlete. Auburn fires Gus Malzahn 2 days before signing day. And Kentucky's like, oh, thanks, Auburn boosters, you crazy SOBs. And so he's a backup. He should be a starter this year, but they just have so much experience there. J.J. Weaver is going to be an all-SEC pass rusher. He can be Josh Allen good. Their linebackers are really, really good. The 2 question marks. One, on the defensive line, Josh Paschal did a lot for that team last year, got a ton of tackles for loss. If there wasn't some guy named Will Anderson getting 100,000 of them, he would have gotten a lot more shine last year. But this defensive line, when they signed all 3 guys up front, they have 4 of them that will rotate in. All 4 of them, well, hell, and even a 5th one that transferred from Ohio State was the class of 2020. When they signed those guys, it was best defensive line recruiting classes in the country. Clemson, Kentucky, Alabama. They got to play now. They're all starting now. The expectations are very high, but they don't have a ton of run. They have to grow up really quickly. They have to play like adults and not like kids. The other question is in the secondary. Kentucky's pass defense went from 1st in the league to 8th. They had a real big drop-off. They had a couple guys drafted who were playing in the NFL last year. Carrington Valentine got picked on quite a bit as a redshirt freshman starter last year. I think the hot take I have about this defense is he's actually going to be good, even though a lot of fans were kind of rolling their eyes at him last year.
Right.
He isn't the caliber of recruit, but he's played a lot of football. Brad White, the defense coordinator, really likes the way he's grown. If experience is worth anything, then that should answer some questions marks they have in the secondary this year.
What about receiver? I know you lose a couple guys. Josh Ali felt like he was there for 25 years. Dane Key is a name that kind of jumped out.
Yes.
That's why he's coming as a freshman. And Tavion Robinson, I think, is the easy. You lose Wandale, you get Tavion from Virginia Tech.
Right.
But how good could this receiving corps be?
The big thing, Chris, is that they don't have as good of a one player, but Will Levis should have 6 more players that he can count on to throw to. Kentucky has recruited their weakness very well. In the last 3 recruiting classes, they've signed 5 top 100 receivers. Not only Dane Key, who scored a touchdown in the spring game, he's your big body type, but Barian Brown was a top 100 slot receiver. It was Kentucky, Alabama, Ole Miss from Nashville, Pearl Crone, our all-state track athlete. I had one assistant tell me, you see Wandale out there against Georgia, and he looked average speed? We got to get a team full of Wandales just to be able to keep up. And they have. They got another kid, Jordan Anthony's going to show up late to camp because he's in the World Track Championships. He was a national champion in the under-20 track and field. They've really, really focused on getting faster on the edges, but they're younger. That's the one caveat. And the way I think you can shore it up is they have 4 really good tight ends. And Keaton Upshaw is returning from an injury. If he is a dog, then he's going to be picked in like the 4th round of the NFL draft. I mean, he's 6'7", 260. Like the dude is a certified monster. If he can play like the certified monster, if he can reach that potential. They also got a 4-star kid, Jordan Dingle, who is just a redshirt. He's just in his 2nd season, redshirt freshman. He can be really talented as well. So I'm curious how they do use those tight ends, because the 49ers, they love their fullbacks and their tight ends and all that stuff. So if you do have some of that inexperience at receiver, you can roll out a few more big hog mollies there at H-back.
What when you look at the schedule, what game concerns you most? And look, you get Georgia, but later in the year, so maybe that's a good spot. Maybe Georgia's already lost a game or two, and maybe that's you're playing for the SEC East on the line right there. The Week 2 game at Florida scares the hell out of me if I'm a Kentucky fan, because you know the battles you've had with those guys. The past few years, you should be on like a 4-game win streak against them. They've gotten your number a couple times where it felt like you should have beat them.
That's true.
That to me seems like the scariest spot, because it's Week 2 going to the Swamp.
Yes, the one thing that I do take a little bit of solace in is that typically where Florida is scary is having just 1st-round draft picks on defensive line or offensive line, and they don't have that this year. You have Anthony Richardson, who just has great. He's kind of like Levis in that he has this great athleticism, these great tools, but you want to see more from him. I like that they open with Utah at home. Utah, they're not so different than Kentucky. They're just going to run it down your throat, hit you. And I'm hoping that there's a little bit of, oh, God, we got to go through this again. And then Kentucky just steamrolls it. The one game that worries me, I don't want to say worry, it's the Kentucky fan in me. Kentucky's they had 2 10-win seasons since, 1951 or something like that. Stoops has 2 in the last 4 years. Those are 11-win seasons in New Year's 6 games if they just beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
And in 2018, that was a horrible Tennessee team. They still got their number. That was at Neyland Stadium. Last year, their pick six, I mean, that game, it was back and forth the entire time, but Will Levis lets one bad throw. Alante Taylor jumps at pick 6. That's the difference in the game. That could be the SEC's championship. You know, I mean, we don't know right now, but that one, just as a Kentucky fan that's been jaded year after year after year, I feel a little bit more comfortable about that Florida game, knowing that there is a bit more of a rebuild. But the way that Tennessee can just go fast and they can make big plays in a hurry, even if you feel comfortable for a little while at Neyland Stadium, no lead is comfortable against Josh Heupel's offense.
My wife, full disclosure, my wife is a Kentucky grad. She hates Neyland Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And I think her one time she went, there's moon pies were thrown at her, and she said they played Rocky Top nonstop. I'm like, yes, that's what they do. I like Rocky Top. She hates it. So, you know.
So in Rocky Top is actually, like, if removing fanhood, not a bad song. But when it's the 4th quarter and you just hear, woo, you know, it did. Oh, God.
I would play it, but copyrights,
Right. Yeah, the copyrights. Thank you, copyrights.
Let our listeners know, obviously, KSR, everybody knows what it is, but what do you got working on? I mean, full season previews and all that leading up to the start of the season?
Definitely. I have a long feature coming out on Tayshaun Manning, who seems like Kentucky, the big C word's been in that locker room for a while, but Tayshaun Manning 6 years removed from beating leukemia, and now he's the biggest barrel. Dude, he doesn't fit in roller coasters. Like, they just aren't made for men his size. He could be the next big guy on the big blue wall that ends up getting his name called in the NFL draft, former Auburn transfer. But we'll have a lot cooking up. We've got a lot of different podcasts if you want to look out there, videos, you name it. We got it. We're excited in the Big Blue Nation, really ready for a Kentucky football season unlike any other. Expectations aren't usually this high.
Right.
It's weird. They're really high in Kentucky. Outside of it, it's South Carolina. They're God's gift to football. So, we'll see.
I love your Kentucky pronunciation of the word high. Ha.
Oh, yeah.
You, Matt Jones, you've all got it.
Oh, and
I've never been this high.
I'm even the city guy. I'm the city boy from Louisville, and I still got myself a little accent there. Louisville.
Well, tell all those guys, that to keep up their shenanigans, Ryan Lemon and Matt Jones and all those guys. And we'll look forward to hearing you on KSR very soon. Matt Roush, Nick Roush, sorry. I went to school with Matt Roush, so that's why I forget you. Nick Roush, thanks so much for joining us, man. Chris. Appreciate it. All right, more after this. Thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. A quick reminder, the ultimate college football preview is here. A 7-episode preview with college experts, local team experts, and Odyssey football, college football insiders. It's everything you need to be ready for the college football season in one spot. Search for Ultimate College Football Preview on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. My thanks again to Nick Roush from KSR for joining us to talk all things Kentucky Wildcats. Thank you again for making us your first listen every day. Now you can make your second listen. Check out some of our other great podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network, covering all your favorite schools around the SEC, whether it's Auburn, whether it's Alabama, Georgia, Florida, whoever it is. Search Locked On and whatever your favorite school is, and you will find us wherever you find your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll be back tomorrow. We're here with you 5 days a week, talking all things SEC football, getting you guys ready for the start of yet another SEC football season. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.